Officer David Chen arrived at the Jackson family's backyard in Oakland, California, on a Saturday afternoon in July, with his badge on his chest and a dispatch call in his ear. Noise complaint and unlawful gathering, and what he found was 4 adults, 3 children, 2 folding tables, 1 charcoal grill, a playlist of Stevie Wonder, and a 7-year-old named Isaiah Jackson, who was standing at the fence in a paper crown holding a plate of potato salad, because it was his birthday. Officer Chen stood at the gate for 32 seconds. Then he stepped inside the yard, shook Isaiah's father's hand, asked if there was a spare plate, sat down at the folding table, and ate potato salad at Isaiah Jackson's 7th birthday party. The neighbor who called the dispatch, a woman named Carol Brennan, who had lived on the street for 8 years and had a pool in her backyard that had hosted a party of 42 people with a live DJ the previous summer, watched all of this from her window and said nothing. When the Jackson family appeared on Family Feud 14 months later, and the episode aired 6 weeks after that, 329 million people watched Officer Chen become the most talked-about law enforcement officer in America. And when Steve Harvey found out what David Chen had done after he sat down at that birthday table, he walked off the Family Feud stage for the first time in the show's 45-year history and took 3 minutes to compose himself in the hallway before he came back. It was a Tuesday morning in September, 14 months after Isaiah's birthday, when the Jackson family pulled into the Family Feud studio parking lot in Atlanta. Andre Jackson drove. His wife Loretta sat next to him. In the back seat, Isaiah, now 8, talking at full speed about a strategy he had developed for the fast money round based on watching 34 episodes of Family Feud on YouTube. Andre's sister Camille was in the second car with her husband Ray and their teenage son Terrell. Steve came out and immediately zeroed in on Isaiah, who was wearing a bow tie he had described to his mother as professional. Steve crouched down and said, "Young man, what's your strategy today?" Isaiah said, "Common answers. The survey is about what most people think, not what's true." Steve stood up and looked at the audience and said, "We may have a problem. This child is running the show now." The audience agreed. Andre smiled. He held Loretta's hand at the podium. But anybody watching his eyes would have seen it. The particular steadiness of a man who had carried something for 14 months and had made peace with carrying it, but hadn't quite finished putting it down. Nobody in that studio knew yet what he had carried. But the real story hadn't even started yet. The object was a photograph. Andre had taken it himself on his phone at 4:47 p.m. On that Saturday in July, while Officer David Chen was sitting at the Jackson family's folding table eating potato salad and talking to Isaiah about what kind of cake he had chosen. It was a casual photograph. Chen was laughing at something Isaiah had said, his cap slightly askew, a paper plate in his hand. Andre had taken it because it was the exact opposite of what he had been afraid was about to happen when he heard the knock at the gate, and he wanted to hold on to the exact opposite. He texted the photograph to Loretta, who was standing 10 feet away, because some things you need to share immediately with the person who understood why it mattered. Loretta looked at the photo on her phone. She looked at Chen at the table. She looked at her son in his paper crown. She put her phone in her pocket and went to get Chen a second serving of potato salad. But the 14 months between that Saturday and the Family Feud stage were not only about Officer Chen. They were about what Carol Brennan had done next, and what the Oakland Police Department had done after that, and what the City Council had done after that, and what none of it had fully fixed. And the particular exhaustion of being a family that had done nothing wrong and still had to spend 14 months proving it. Carol Brennan had filed a formal follow-up complaint with the Oakland Police Department 4 days after the party, stating that Officer Chen had failed to execute a lawful dispatch by not dispersing the gathering. The Internal Affairs Division opened a review. Officer Chen was placed on administrative review for 11 days, while the department documented the call, the response, and the outcome. During those 11 days, Andre Jackson did not sleep more than 3 hours on any given night. He was a high school vice principal. He had been in the Oakland school system for 16 years. He coached the debate team. He had a spotless professional record. He sat in his kitchen at 2 a.m. during those 11 days and stared at his phone, waiting for news about whether the officer who had eaten potato salad at his son's birthday party was going to be disciplined for it. He did not tell Isaiah any of this. Isaiah was 7, then 8, and his world still contained birthday cake and bow ties and Family Feud strategy sessions. Andre and Loretta had made a decision without discussing it, the way parents make certain decisions. They were going to protect that world as long as they could. The review concluded on the 12th day. Officer Chen was cleared of any wrongdoing. The Internal Affairs finding stated that the original dispatch had been based on a complaint that, upon investigation, did not meet the threshold of an unlawful gathering under Oakland Municipal Code, and that Officer Chen's response had been appropriate. Carol Brennan appealed the finding. The appeal was denied. Andre got the notification on his phone at 6:14 in the morning. He was already awake. He read it once. He put his phone on the kitchen counter. He went and woke up Isaiah and made him breakfast and drove him to school, and came home and sat in his car in the driveway for 22 minutes. He did not go back inside and cry. He was a vice principal. He had a school to run. He went inside and changed into his work clothes and drove to school and ran a faculty meeting and handled 3 disciplinary matters and ate lunch at his desk and drove home. He was fine. He told Loretta he was fine. She looked at him the way she looked at him when she knew he was doing that thing, being fine on purpose. She said, "Okay, Andre." She knew when to push and when to let a man have his fine. But Isaiah heard something. Children hear things parents are not aware of. 2 weeks after the review conclusion, on a Sunday morning, Isaiah came into the kitchen while Andre was making coffee and said, without preamble, "Dad, did we do something bad at my birthday?" Andre turned around. He looked at his son. "No," he said, "we didn't do anything bad." Isaiah said, "Then why was that man from the police place in trouble?" Andre sat down at the table. He looked at his 8-year-old. He said, "Because sometimes people see us having a good time and they don't understand that we're allowed to." Isaiah thought about this for a moment. He said, "Did we do something bad, Dad?" Andre said, "No, son. Not one thing." Isaiah nodded. He went back to his cereal. Andre sat at the table and held his coffee cup with both hands and breathed. He had applied to Family Feud in August, a month before the taping, because Loretta had suggested it during a Sunday dinner conversation and everyone at the table had immediately said yes, and because he needed to be somewhere that day where his family was the whole show and nobody was watching from a window. Steve Harvey would later say that what happened in the next 12 minutes was the reason he believed he was given the show. The game was 1 full round deep when a question came up. Name something a neighbor might complain about, and Andre Jackson answered a barbecue. It was the correct answer. It was the number 1 answer. The board flipped. The audience cheered, and Steve Harvey watched Andre Jackson look at the board, look at his son, and not quite smile all the way. Steve put his cards down. "Andre," he said. "That answer came very fast." Andre looked at him. "Tell me about that barbecue." The studio went quiet in a way it hadn't all episode. Andre told the story in 2 minutes and 19 seconds. He told it calmly, specifically the birthday party, the dispatch call, Officer Chen, the paper crown, the potato salad, the 11-day review, the 4 in the morning. He did not editorialize. He stated facts. When he finished, he looked at Steve and said, "I want people to know that Officer Chen did the right thing. He sat down. In 14 months, that is the thing I keep coming back to. He sat down." 300 people did not move. Even the crew members had stopped what they were doing. Steve Harvey's hand went slowly to his chest. He placed it there flat. His head went down. He stood that way for a long moment. Then he said, to no one in particular and everyone at once, "Somebody go get me a minute." He walked off the stage. He walked down the corridor behind the set. He stood there for 3 minutes. A producer followed him. He held up one hand. He stood there until he was ready. Then he came back. He came back and said, "This has never happened in the 45-year history of this show. I have never walked off this stage. I'm telling you that because I want you to understand what just happened in this room." He looked at Andre. He looked at Isaiah in the family section, bow ties slightly crooked now, watching his father with absolute faith. He said, "Let me tell you something about a stranger who does the right thing when nobody expects it. When I was living in my car, when I was at my lowest, eating behind restaurants, an old man at a gas station looked at me and said, 'Son, God's got a plan bigger than your pain.' He didn't know me. He sat down in my direction, the way Officer Chen sat down at that table, and I am here because of it. Because of a stranger who chose the right thing in an ordinary moment." He looked straight at the camera. David Chen chose right. In 45 years of this show, this is the first time I have ever said a police officer's name on this stage and wanted the whole world to write it down. He wasn't done. He pulled out his phone live on the Family Feud stage and called the hospital, St. Francis Medical Center in Oakland, and arranged for a $25,000 donation to their pediatric emergency fund in Officer David Chen's name to be announced publicly. He called it the potato salad donation. The audience laughed through tears. He announced both families were walking out with the full $20,000 prize. The competing family, the Nguyen's from Sacramento, didn't cross the stage. They were already there. The Nguyen family's oldest daughter, a college student named Lily, who had heard the whole story from the family section, walked straight to Isaiah and said, "Happy birthday. I'm sorry it was late." Isaiah said, "That's okay. My dad says the best things take time." The audience got to its feet. The crew was looking at the floor. The episode aired 8 weeks later. It had 94 million views in the first 48 hours. Within 2 weeks, it crossed 329 million. The hashtag #HeSatDown trended for 13 days in 29 countries and became the organizing phrase for a national conversation about de-escalation and community-first policing. Officer David Chen received the Oakland Police Department's Community Excellence Award 4 months after the episode aired, the first time the award had been given to an officer for an action at a civilian birthday party. 3 months after the taping, Carol Brennan moved. She listed her house in October and was gone by December. Andre Jackson did not comment publicly on this. He was asked once in an interview and said, "I hope she finds a neighborhood she feels more comfortable in." A year after the taping, Andre was appointed to the Oakland Unified School District's Community Safety Advisory Board, a new body formed in direct response to the national conversation the episode had sparked. His first policy proposal was a community mediation protocol for neighbor disputes involving outdoor gatherings, specifically designed to give community members a non-police first response option for noise concerns. The protocol was adopted unanimously and was being studied by 7 other districts by the end of the year. Today, the Backyard Table Fund, named for the folding table where Officer Chen sat down, provides legal advocacy and community response support to families subjected to discriminatory neighbor complaints. Its motto, taken from what Andre said to Steve backstage when Steve asked him what he most wanted the world to know, is, "We were just having a birthday party. We were always allowed to." The fund has supported 612 families across California, Georgia, and Texas, and has partnered with 12 police departments to develop community-first dispatch protocols for outdoor gathering complaints. Steve spoke about Andre and Officer Chen in a podcast the following year. He said, "The thing that broke me was the potato salad. Not the injustice, though that mattered. The potato salad. Because it meant Chen walked through that gate and looked at a 7-year-old in a paper crown and made a choice. He chose the child. He chose the birthday. He chose the table. And that choice is still rippling." 2 years after the taping, David Chen attended Isaiah Jackson's 10th birthday party. He brought a card. He wore his uniform. He sat at the table, the same folding table, the same backyard, and ate potato salad. Isaiah, 10 years old and full of opinions, told him his strategy for the next time they played Family Feud. Chen said, "I'll practice." Andre Jackson took a photograph. Same yard, same table, same man sitting down. He texted it to Loretta. She was standing 10 feet away. In a backyard in Oakland, on a Saturday in July, a neighbor had looked at a family celebrating and seen something she didn't want to permit. An officer had arrived, looked at the same scene, and chosen the table. The table won. It always does. Not because the table is naive, but because it understands something the window never does. That the point of a birthday party is always the birthday, and the point of a birthday is always the child, and the point of the child is always love. And love, given enough time and enough folding tables, tends to outlast everything that tries to call it in. If Officer Chen's choice moved you, if Andre's 14 months of carrying it quietly moved you, subscribe and hit the thumbs up. Share this with someone who needs to know that one person choosing the right thing in an ordinary moment can change the conversation for an entire country. Have you ever had a stranger choose the table when they didn't have to? Let us know in the comments. And ring that notification bell for more stories that remind us what it means when someone just sits down.